The darkness of space stretched endless and silent, broken only by the faint glimmer of stars. Far from Earth, a massive alien fleet entered the edge of the solar system. Their ships were built with smooth black metal that reflected no light, giving them the look of shadows moving against the stars. The fleet belonged to the Veyari, a race that had conquered countless worlds across the galaxy. They were proud, confident, and certain that no young species could stand against them. Inside the flagship of the Veyari, the High Council gathered. Their leader, Counselor Darren, stood tall in the command chamber, looking at the glowing screens that showed Earth's position. Around him, the other counselors whispered to one another, their voices sharp with arrogance. To them, Earth was nothing more than a small blue planet with a divided people. They had read fragments of human broadcasts and intercepted signals. They saw wars, disagreements, and struggles. To the Veyari, this meant weakness. Another young race, one counselor said, his tone calm but filled with pride. They will fall quickly. They always do. Counselor Darren nodded but did not smile. He had seen many battles, and though his people were powerful, he understood that every new encounter held risk. Yet the rest of the council refused to consider danger. They had fought dozens of species and crushed them all. Why should this time be different? From the rear of the chamber, a young analyst stepped forward. Her name was Rella, and she carried a datapad filled with human records. She had spent weeks studying human behavior, language, and history. She raised her voice carefully. Counselors, these humans are not the same as others we faced. Their past shows patterns of conflict, yes, but also patterns of survival. They do not give up easily. Even when they fight each other, they rise again. This may make them more dangerous than we expect. The chamber grew quiet for a moment. Some counselors frowned. A few laughed softly. Counselor Darren's gaze remained steady on the young analyst. "You believe these humans may resist us longer than others?" he asked. "Yes," Rella said. "Their technology may seem weaker than ours, but they adapt. Every war they fight teaches them something new. If we face them carelessly, we may face a long struggle." Her words echoed in the chamber, but most of the leaders dismissed her warning. Another counselor, older and sharper in voice, shook his head. "Adaptation means nothing against superior power," he said. "We will crush their defenses before they can learn." The chamber filled with agreement. Rella lowered her eyes, realizing her words had carried little weight. Still, Counselor Darren did not forget what she said. The fleet advanced slowly through the system. Their smaller scouts flew ahead, scanning planets and moons. They observed Mars, empty and silent. They saw the gas giants with their storms and rings. Finally, their scanners locked on Earth, glowing blue and green with oceans and land. The sight was beautiful even to alien eyes. Yet to the Veyari, beauty was meaningless. They sought control. From orbit, their instruments gathered streams of information. They studied human ships, satellites, and signals. They learned about Earth's nations, its leaders, and its fragile alliances. To them, the humans looked divided and unprepared. The Veyari commanders grew certain of victory. When the data reached the council chamber, the voices of arrogance grew louder. "They are small," one said. "They are weak," said another. "This will be finished in days." But Rella, standing at the back, studied the images carefully. She noticed how humans built things that were not perfect but strong in their own way. Their machines were not elegant like Veyari ships, but they were layered, reinforced, and made to last. She whispered softly, almost to herself, "They build as if expecting to be tested." No one heard her. As the fleet drew closer, the people of Earth noticed strange signals. Space agencies and observatories tracked the incoming ships. News spread across nations with speed. Leaders of Earth gathered in hidden meetings, fear rising as they realized the truth. This was no comet or lost probe. This was a fleet, and it was coming straight for them. Across the world, soldiers were placed on alert. Scientists worked to prepare defenses, yet all knew their technology was young compared to what advanced aliens might bring. The first real question echoed in every council room on Earth. Would humanity surrender, or would it fight? In orbit of Saturn, the Veyari prepared their first move, their ships aligned in formation, black metal glinting faintly as they faced the distant blue world. Counselor Darren gave the order to send a message of demand. The humans would be given one chance to surrender before war began. As the transmission moved through the void, Rayla stood near the great window of the flagship. She looked at Earth, small, yet bright against the stars. Something in her thoughts refused to accept the arrogance of her people. She remembered the human stories she had read, stories of survival, courage, and determination. A quiet unease grew in her heart. The fleet pressed on, unaware that the first step of their plan would awaken something far greater than they expected. The alien fleet slowed near the orbit of the moon. Their black ships hovered in silence, covering the stars with their vast size. From Earth, telescopes captured images of the strange vessels. News spread across every nation, and fear grew stronger. The world had long wondered if it was alone in the universe, but the answer had now arrived in the most terrifying form. Inside Earth's hidden defense centers, leaders from many countries gathered through secure lines. Generals, scientists, and diplomats argued about what to do. Some wanted to answer with peace, others wanted to prepare weapons, and a few suggested surrendering before disaster came. Voices clashed, but finally they agreed on one step. They would send a single ship to represent humanity in the first meeting. That ship was the Solace, Earth's flagship. Built in secret with combined effort from different nations, it was the most advanced vessel humanity had created. While smaller than the alien dreadnoughts, it carried thick armor, adaptive shields, and weapons designed for many situations. More than its design, it carried the hopes of the planet. In the control room of the Solace, Captain Arden stood with his crew. He was calm, his expression steady, though inside he carried the same fear everyone felt. He knew the aliens had more experience and more ships, but he also believed in the strength of his crew. Around him, officers worked at their stations, scanning the alien fleet and preparing responses. "Transmission incoming," said one officer. Her voice was tense. On the screen, an image appeared. It was the Veyari council chamber, filled with tall figures dressed in dark robes. Their leader, Counselor Darren, stepped forward. His eyes were cold as he spoke. "People of Earth, we are the Veyari. Your planet is now under our control. Surrender your weapons and resources, and we will allow your survival. Refuse, and your world will burn." The words hung in the air of the Solace. The crew exchanged glances. Some looked pale, Others tightened their fists. They all understood the weight of the message. Captain Arden stood firm. "Open channel," he said. The officer nodded, and moments later the humans appeared on the alien screens. Arden faced the Veyari Council with calm eyes. His voice was steady when he spoke. "This is Earth's flagship, the Solace. We do not surrender. We request peaceful contact, but if you threaten our world, we will defend it." For a moment, silence followed. Then a ripple of laughter spread among the alien counselors. To them, the human reply sounded foolish. A single ship standing against. Their entire fleet was nothing but arrogance in their eyes. One alien commander leaned closer to Darren and whispered, "They send one vessel only. They are not united. They are weak." Yet Rella, the young analyst, listened carefully. She studied the human captain's face, noting his calmness. He was not speaking with the fear of someone who expected defeat. There was something different in his eyes. Back in the Veyari fleet, the commanders decided to test the humans. One of their battleships moved forward, its massive body blocking light from the stars. With a pulse of energy, it fired a beam near the Solace, a warning shot that shook space around it. Inside the Solace, alarms blared as the beam struck close. The crew braced themselves, expecting damage, but the shields held strong. The flagship did not retreat. Instead, it kept its position, standing face to face with the enemy. On the alien flagship, the counselors frowned. They had expected the human ship to retreat or open with panic, yet it moved calmly, holding its line. "Strange," one muttered. "Their ship should not resist such force with ease." Rella stepped forward again. "Their shields are unusual. Look at the energy curve. It bends and absorbs more than it should. We cannot assume weakness." But once again, her words were dismissed. "They cannot compare to us," another counselor said sharply. "It is only a matter of time." Still, Counselor Darren studied the human vessel with narrowed eyes. Something unsettled him. He remembered Rayla's earlier warning about human survival. He did not yet voice his concern, but the thought pressed against his mind. Back on the Solace, the crew prepared for the next move. Engineers checked systems, pilots adjusted formation, and weapon officers stood ready. Arden looked at Earth through the rear view of the ship. The blue planet floated quietly, unaware of how close danger had come. He felt the weight of every life on that world pressing on his shoulders. He turned back to his crew. "We hold our ground. We show them we are not afraid." The crew nodded. Fear still lived in their hearts, but the captain's words gave them strength. The standoff continued in silence. Alien ships surrounded the Solace, their weapons glowing faintly, ready to strike. The humans stayed steady, their single flagship standing against the endless dark wall of enemy vessels. In that silence, both sides measured one another. The aliens saw a smaller force, but could not yet understand its true nature. The humans saw overwhelming power, but refused to bow. It was the first true meeting between Earth and the Veyari, and though no battle had begun yet, the tension was enough to shake every soul watching. Far away, on Earth, billions waited for news. Would the Solace return in triumph, or would it vanish into silence? None could predict the answer, but all knew history was being written in that moment. The aliens had sent their demand. Humanity had replied with defiance. The first move had been made, and the path toward conflict was set. The silence after the first warning shot hung heavy across both fleets. Alien ships surrounded the Solace, their sharp black forms casting long shadows in space. On the human side, the Flagship stood steady, its shields glowing faintly where the energy blast had grazed. It had not flinched. It had not moved back. This puzzled the Veyari Council more than they admitted aloud. Inside the alien flagship, the counselors gathered once more around the central chamber. Their screens showed detailed scans of the Solace, streams of numbers, and shifting models of its structure. For most counselors, the data confirmed what they already believed, that the human ship was inferior, a crude design compared to the sleek power of the Veyari. But one voice rose again with a different view. Rella, the young analyst, stepped forward. Her eyes moved quickly across the readings. "Look closely," she said. "The armor is not standard metal. It is layered with strange composites. It bends in ways that resist our scans. This is not simple construction." One elder counselor laughed. "It is a patchwork, nothing more. They lack the skill to build ships like ours, so they combine whatever scraps they can." Rella shook her head. "No, this is not random. Look at the shield readings. When our battleship fired, the energy did not only resist, it redirected. Their systems are unstable, yes, but also flexible. They are designed to adapt in battle. No other race we faced built ships this way." Counselor Darren leaned forward. He studied the graphs that showed unusual spikes in the human energy field. The patterns were irregular, but not meaningless. They shifted like waves, bending with the pressure instead of breaking. It reminded him of something alive. Another commander spoke sharply. "Why do you give them such credit? They are children, compared to us. One ship cannot stand against thousands. Even if it resists now, it will fall when we strike with full force." Darren stayed silent, but his eyes remained fixed on the data. He had fought many wars, and he knew arrogance was often the seed of failure. Still, his people trusted in numbers, in power, and in the long line of victories that made them believe they could never lose. Meanwhile, inside the Solace, the crew worked with quiet focus. Engineers checked the armor for cracks. Officers watched the alien ships closely, marking their formations. The humans knew they were surrounded, but they also knew they could not afford to show fear. Captain Arden stood at the center of the command deck. His gaze shifted between the alien fleet and the glowing Earth far behind them. He spoke in a calm tone. "Status. All systems steady," replied the engineer. "Shields recharged. Weapons ready." The captain nodded. He could feel the weight of every choice pressing on him. To fire first could mean war beyond control. To show weakness could mean surrender without a fight. His task was to hold the line long enough to understand what these aliens wanted and to prove that humanity was not powerless. Back in the Veyari flagship, the counselors studied deeper scans. They focused on the weapons of the Solace. At first, they seemed outdated. Railguns, missile launchers, and energy cannons, all technologies the Veyari had seen in countless primitive species. The counselors dismissed them with ease, but Rayla saw more. She noticed how the weapons were not fixed to one method. They carried multiple layers of design, old ideas merged with new ones. "They do not abandon old tools," she said softly. "They improve them. Their missiles are not simple. They hide patterns inside. Their railguns use magnetic fields far denser than normal. Even their lasers are adjusted to shift frequencies mid-shot. This ship is not a relic. It is a library of every lesson they ever learned. Her words drew silence for a brief moment. Then another counselor snapped, "Enough! You speak as if they could challenge us. They cannot. Our dreadnoughts are stronger. Our fleets are countless." Still, Darren's eyes narrowed. He was not convinced either way. He looked again at the human flagship, floating steady despite the circle of enemy ships around it. Something about the design unsettled him. It was not elegant, but it felt purposeful, like a puzzle built from centuries of struggle. In the Solace, the crew also studied. They scanned the alien fleet, learning what little they could. Their instruments struggled against the strange, dark hulls of the Veyari ships, but they picked out patterns in the movement. Arden's science officer, a quiet man named Thomas, reported what he saw. "They move with confidence, sir. Their lines are tight, their weapons precise. But they are predictable. They rely on their strength. If they attack, they will come fast and direct." Arden listened, his mind turning. Predictability was a weakness. If humans could read it, they could exploit it. The standoff stretched on, but both sides were not idle. Each studied the other, weighing strengths and weaknesses. The aliens saw a single ship where they expected fear. The humans saw a vast fleet, but noticed cracks in the enemy's pride. As the hours passed, tension only grew. The Veyari commanders grew restless. They wanted to prove their power quickly, but Counselor Darren held them back. He wanted to watch longer. He wanted to know what made this human ship so steady. Rayla stood quietly by the window of the chamber, her eyes fixed on the glowing blue of Earth. A thought repeated in her mind. The humans build not for beauty, not for perfection, but for survival. And survival can be stronger than elegance. The Solace, small in the shadow of the fleet, waited for the next move. And far away, billions of humans waited for news. The study was not finished, but fear had already begun to move through the Veyari ranks. The Solace floated in silence among the stars, surrounded by the dark wall of the Veyari fleet. Human eyes studied every move of the enemy, while alien eyes searched for cracks in the lone flagship. Neither side moved, yet tension grew thicker with every passing moment. Inside the alien flagship, counselors argued, the scans from earlier still troubled them. Some wanted to press the attack at once, while others preferred to wait for Earth's surrender. Pride filled the chamber, pride built from centuries of victory. To most of the Veyari, the humans were nothing but a small obstacle. "Why do we waste time?" one counselor snapped. "One blast will end their resistance. Let us strike." Rayla, the young analyst, stepped forward. Her voice was calm but firm. "Counselors, the Solace is not what it seems. Their technology does not match ours, but it bends with our attacks. I believe we are facing more than one kind of weapon. They have designed this ship to survive against stronger forces." Her words met with scorn. Another elder leaned forward. "You speak like they are equal to us. They are not. They are children who build clumsy machines. Do not let fear cloud your judgment." Counselor Darren remained quiet. His eyes never left. The image of the Solace, steady and calm in the middle of danger. He remembered Rayla's warnings and knew arrogance had destroyed many commanders in history. Yet he also knew his council would not listen. To prove their superiority, the Veyari commanders decided on a test. A heavy cruiser moved forward, its hull black as stone, its weapons glowing with power. The order was simple: Fire at the Solace directly, not just as a warning but as a strike to break their spirit. In the command deck of the Solace, alarms rang as sensors lit up. The alien cruiser's weapons locked on. Captain Arden stood tall, his voice steady. "Shields at full. Hold position." The beam fired. A stream of blinding light tore through space, striking the Solace. The impact shook the ship, and the crew braced against the force. Panels flickered, alarms echoed, but the shields held. The energy rippled across the protective field, bending like water around a stone. When the blast ended, the Solace remained. The crew exhaled in relief, though their fear remained close. One officer turned to Arden. "Shields are strong, Captain, holding at 80%. Arden nodded. His calmness spread across the deck. "Good. Let them see we do not break." On the alien flagship, silence filled the chamber. The strike that should have shattered the human ship had failed. The Solace stood, scarred but steady, facing the fleet with quiet defiance. Some counselors shifted uneasily. One muttered, "Impossible. No ship of their level should resist such power." Rella pointed to the energy charts. "Look at the shield curve. They used our own force against us. Their design is strange, but it is not weak. They built it to learn during battle." Her words were sharper this time, carrying weight, yet many still refused to accept them. Another commander spoke with anger. "It changes nothing. One ship cannot stand against us all. If they survive one strike, they will not survive the next." Counselor Darren finally spoke. His voice was low but firm. "Do not underestimate them. This ship may be small, but it has already done what no other young race has done against us. They did not run. They did not break. They endured." Despite his warning, most of the council pressed for escalation. To them, fear was weakness, and hesitation was shame. They demanded another strike, stronger than the last. Back on the Solace, the crew repaired systems and steadied themselves. Engineers worked to balance the shields, while officers tracked every movement of the alien fleet. Arden walked across the deck, speaking with each team. His presence reminded them they were not alone. "We are one ship," he said, his voice calm. "But we stand for all of Earth. Whatever they bring, we hold." His words lit sparks of determination in the crew. Their fear did not vanish, but it shifted into resolve. Meanwhile, Earth watched from afar. Leaders and citizens alike followed fragments of information. Some prayed, some prepared for war, and some whispered that humanity's time had come. Yet, in the heart of fear, a new pride began to rise. The Solace had faced a fleet and had not fallen. In the alien council chamber, tension grew. Darren studied the faces of his peers. He knew pride could blind them, and he feared it was already too late to pull them back. Rella stood near the window, her eyes fixed on the glowing blue planet far away. She whispered softly, "They do not fight only with weapons. They fight with will." But her voice was lost in the chamber's noise. Orders were already being prepared for the next assault. The Veyari sought to crush resistance with overwhelming force, blind to the truth that each strike only revealed more about the human strength they feared to admit. The Solace floated steady, its shields glowing faintly, its crew ready. The warning had been given, but ignored. Now the true clash was drawing closer. The tension between the fleets stretched across the empty space. The Solace stood firm, a single beacon of light against the shadow of the massive Veyari armada. Inside the human ship, Captain Arden watched the alien formations closely. He could sense the growing impatience of the Veyari commanders, and he knew their next move would be decisive. "Scans are complete," said Tomas, the science officer. "They are preparing a new wave of weapons. Their energy fields are increasing. They expect us to falter." Arden nodded. "Good. Keep monitoring. Make sure every system is ready. We may not just survive. We may teach them what they cannot predict." Across the void, the Veyari prepared to show their strength. Beams of bright energy rippled along the hulls of their ships. Dreadnoughts aligned in perfect formation, their power concentrated for a coordinated strike. Counselor Darren looked at the human flagship with an intensity unusual for him. The Solace had endured one assault and had not broken. That was not common, even for races Darren had faced before. Rella, standing near him, whispered, "They are not what they appear. This ship is built to change with battle. If we strike too hard, we may awaken something we cannot control." Darren did not reply. He knew the words carried truth, but the council demanded action. Pride could not allow hesitation. In the Solace, the crew prepared for the confrontation. Engineers ran final checks on adaptive shields, weapon systems, and energy relays. Officers calculated trajectories, watching every alien movement. The ship itself seemed to hum with quiet purpose, as if it understood the weight of what it carried. Then, Captain Arden activated the communication link. The Veyari fleet paused for a moment, curious. The human face appeared on their screens, calm and composed. Arden spoke clearly. "This is the Solace. You may have strength, but you underestimate what it means to defend a world. Your fleets may be greater, your weapons stronger, but they will not break our resolve. We do not fight only with technology. We fight with will, with experience, and with every lesson our people have learned. You will see it now." On the alien flagship, the counselors shifted uneasily. The tone of the human captain carried no fear. His words were simple, yet heavy with promise. Darren studied the Solace closely. Something about the ship seemed to respond to his gaze, as if it were alive in ways no human should be able to make. Suddenly, the Solace activated systems the Veyari had not noticed. Energy fields began to expand along the hull, bending light, and creating ripples across the shield. Weapons on board shifted configuration in real time. Missiles that had been hidden in compartments slid into position, while energy cannons adjusted frequencies, ready to fire in precise, calculated patterns. Rella's eyes widened as she studied the patterns. What is this? They are not just resisting. They are preparing to strike in ways our sensors cannot predict. This ship, it adapts instantly. It changes every weapon and shield with the flow of battle. Counselor Darren felt a chill he had never experienced before. The Solace was no ordinary ship. It was not just a vessel. It was a system designed to learn, to respond, and to survive. No other race had ever built such a combination of engineering and strategy. Back on the Solace, the crew moved with calm precision. Captain Arden gave quiet orders. "Prepare to demonstrate. Show them we are not powerless. Keep shields strong and weapons ready. We strike only if we must, but make it clear we cannot be broken." The human flagship seemed to hum louder, almost as if it knew the moment had come. Sensors on the Veyari ships began to flicker as they tried to adjust to the constantly changing energy patterns. Beams that were fired toward the Solace bent unpredictably, some dissipating in space, others redirected harmlessly. Missiles vanished inside the shifting shields. On the alien flagship, panic began to rise in subtle ways. The counselors whispered urgently to one another. Their confidence was cracking. They had expected fear, retreat, or surrender, but they found none. Instead, they faced a ship that reacted to every attack, a ship that seemed alive with purpose. Rella looked at Darren. "We have underestimated them. This is not just technology, it is human will given form. Every weapon, every shield, every move is a lesson learned from generations of struggle. They have turned survival into a weapon." Darren did not speak. He only stared at the Solace, understanding now that the humans were far stronger than their outward appearance suggested. Their single flagship was no mere ship. It was a force of nature, designed to endure, adapt, and overcome. Far behind them, Earth glowed quietly in the distance. On that small blue planet, billions of humans continued their lives, unaware of the demonstration taking place in space. Yet through one ship, they had made a statement. Humanity was not weak. Humanity was not easily broken. Humanity could endure and fight with a force no enemy could ignore. The Veyari fleet trembled in subtle ways, and fear began to creep into the hearts of their commanders. The Solace had revealed the first glimpse of human ingenuity and strength. It was no ordinary ship, no ordinary race, and no ordinary day. The humans had begun their true demonstration, and the Veyari had only seconds to understand what they faced. The Solace glowed faintly against the dark of space, its shield shimmering like a living barrier. The Veyari fleet tightened their formation, preparing for a full assault. Their confidence had begun to falter after seeing the human flagship. Endure and adapt to the first strikes. Yet they still believed numbers could overwhelm skill. Pride made them blind. Captain Arden stood on the command deck of the Solace. His crew moved with calm precision, each officer trusting the systems of the ship as much as each other. "Status report," he said, his voice steady. "Shield stable at 100%, replied the engineer. "Weapon systems ready. Adaptive targeting active." Arden nodded. "Prepare for incoming assault. Remember, we do not only defend, we observe, we adapt, and we respond." Across the void, the Veyari unleashed their attack. Beams of intense energy tore through space. Missiles streaked forward, and their ships moved in coordinated waves. They expected the Solace to falter, to crumble beneath superior force. Instead, the human flagship absorbed the energy and redirected it. Shields bent the beams, twisting them harmlessly into space. Missiles disappeared within adaptive fields, reappearing as countermeasures aimed with precision at alien ships. On the Veyari flagship, the counselors murmured in disbelief. No ship had ever turned their attacks back upon them. No species had reacted with such precision. Rella's eyes widened as she watched the battle unfold. "They anticipate every move," she whispered. "Their systems learn instantly. They do not just react, they predict." Darren leaned forward. "This is not normal. They are not weak. They are more dangerous than any young race we have faced. Watch closely." The Solace moved through space like a predator, calm and purposeful. Its weapons fired with exact timing, striking alien vessels where gaps in armor appeared. Every shot seemed to follow a strategy, anticipating the aliens' next position. The Vayari ships faltered under the accuracy and adaptability of a single human flagship. Inside the Solace, the crew worked in perfect harmony. Engineers adjusted shield fields, targeting officers calculated firing sequences, and pilots maneuvered to maximize advantage. Captain Arden gave orders with quiet authority. Fire only when necessary. Keep shields strong. Watch their patterns. The Vayari fleet tried to adapt. They shifted formation, fired beams in unpredictable bursts, and launched more missiles. Yet the Solace countered every attack. Energy redirected, shields adjusted, and weapons adapted. Each alien strike was absorbed and mirrored with precision. The aliens realized too late that they were facing a force that changed with every move, a force that learned from their actions in real time. "Impossible," one counselor whispered. "They are only one ship." Rella shook her head. "It is not only the ship, it is their strategy, their adaptability, their will to survive. They have turned every weakness into a weapon. They are not just resisting, they are controlling the battle." Counselor Darren's gaze never left the Solace. "They are showing what humans are capable of. This is only the beginning. If this is their first ship, imagine what comes next." On the Solace, a missile struck the shields, creating a ripple of light across the hull. The crew braced, but the system absorbed the impact. Another counterattack fired, hitting a Vayari dreadnought. The energy spread along the ship's surface, disabling its engines and weapons temporarily. One by one, alien ships began to falter. Captain Arden's voice cut through the control deck. "Keep formation steady. Observe, learn, and strike with precision. This is our world. We will not falter." The alien commanders shouted orders to regain control, but their attacks were less coordinated. The Solace anticipated movements, countering, with both defense and offense simultaneously. The fleet that had seemed invincible began to crumble under the pressure of a single human ship. Rella's eyes reflected awe and fear. "They are proving it," she whispered. "The humans do not rely on strength alone. They use intelligence, coordination, and willpower. They have made the impossible possible." The Solace moved among the alien fleet like a ghost, untouchable yet striking decisively. Every attack it faced was learned, every move it made calculated. The crew worked as one, guided by Captain Arden, but also by something greater, a unity that seemed to echo the spirit of humanity itself. As the battle raged, the Vayari began to retreat. Fear spread quietly among the commanders. They had faced many species, many threats, but none had turned their own attacks back against them with such skill and precision. Their pride was cracking. In the command chamber of the flagship, Darren whispered to Rella, "This is not just defense. They have become a force we cannot ignore. Humanity is not weak." Rella nodded. "And if this is only one ship, what comes after? What comes next will change the galaxy." The Solace stood in space, its shields glowing softly, its weapons ready, and its crew calm yet alert. The humans had faced the impossible and survived. The Vayari fleet, once confident and arrogant, now felt the first taste of fear. And in that silence between attacks, the truth became clear. Humanity had proven that strength alone did not win battles. Will, intelligence, and the ability to adapt were far stronger. The clash had begun. The outcome was no longer certain. But one thing was clear. The Solace had shown what humans could do, and the Veyari would never forget it. The aftermath of the battle hung heavy across the stars. The Veyari fleet drifted in disarray, some ships damaged, others retreating in confusion. The Solace floated in the center of space, its shields glowing faintly, its hull scarred but unbroken. Captain Arden watched the fleet through the command deck window, his crew calm and alert. They had survived the impossible and had shown the aliens the true strength of humanity. Inside the Solace, engineers repaired minor damage while weapons officers recalibrated their systems. Every crew member knew the weight of what they had accomplished. They had faced a fleet that outnumbered them many times over, yet they had not only endured, they had controlled the battle. Arden moved quietly among them, offering words of encouragement. "We did what we came to do," he said. "We showed them who we are. Hold your heads high. Earth is safe because we refused to bow." The crew nodded. Fear had been present, but it had been transformed into pride. Each officer understood that their unity, their skill, and their will had become their greatest weapons. Far away, the Alien Council struggled to regain composure. Counselor Darren stared at the view screens, his expression grave. The Veyari had expected fear, surrender, or retreat, but they had found none. Instead, they faced a single ship that had turned their own attacks against them, a ship that had learned faster than their predictions, and a crew that had not wavered even for a moment. Rella, standing beside Darren, whispered softly, "This is only one ship. If humanity builds more, the galaxy will see their power. They are not weak, and they will not stop here." Darren nodded slowly. He felt a fear that had been foreign to him for centuries. It was not fear of destruction, but fear of the unexpected. Humanity had shown that even with less experience and smaller numbers, their intelligence, courage, and adaptability made them a force to reckon with. Across the galaxy, reports of the battle spread quickly. Other races observed the human flagship standing against the Veyari and survived. Whispers of awe and respect began to circulate. Even those who had doubted humanity now wondered what else this species could achieve. Back on the Solace, Captain Arden remained vigilant. He knew the fight was not over, but the lesson had been delivered. Humanity's resolve had been demonstrated in a way that needed no words. The humans had faced an overwhelming fleet and had not fallen. Their strength had been measured not only in weapons, but in willpower, strategy, and unity. On Earth, billions watched as news of the encounter slowly reached them. The story of a single human ship standing against the galaxy's conquerors spread hope and pride. People realized that despite their small size in the vast universe, humanity was capable of great courage and extraordinary survival. Leaders held meetings, scientists planned new projects, and ordinary citizens felt the spark of confidence. The message was clear. Humans would fight, endure, and protect their world. The Veyari Council attempted to regroup, but their confidence had been shattered. Ships that had been proud and precise now moved cautiously, their attacks hesitant. Counselors whispered to one another about what they had witnessed, about the unpredictability of humans, and about the intelligence and adaptability that no scan could fully reveal. Fear had taken root, subtle but deep, spreading through their ranks like wildfire. Darren finally spoke aloud, his voice quiet but firm. "We underestimated them. They are not what we thought. One ship has shown us that the humans are more than a species to conquer. They are a challenge we cannot ignore. They are dangerous. Rayla shivered, though not from fear alone. If this is their first ship, imagine what comes next. They will grow stronger. They will adapt further. They will not stop. The Solace drifted silently in space, a testament to human courage. Its shields shimmered faintly as the stars reflected off its surface. Captain Arden knew that this was only the beginning. Humanity had proven itself, but the galaxy was vast, and future threats would come. Yet he also knew that humans had shown what no one else had. They could endure, learn, and rise against even the most terrifying odds. The Veyari fleet, once proud and confident, began to retreat slowly. Their fear was real now, tempered by respect and caution. They had faced a species they had underestimated, and the lesson would not be forgotten. Across the stars, the humans had sent a clear message. Earth was not prey, and its people were, not weak. As the Solace turned toward Earth, the crew watched silently. They had faced fear and uncertainty and had prevailed. They had shown the galaxy that humanity was resilient, clever, and unyielding. Captain Arden allowed himself a small smile. The battle was won, the message delivered, and the first spark of a new era had begun. Humanity had emerged from the shadow of doubt into the light of recognition. The stars stretched endlessly before them, but one truth now shone brighter than. All humanity would endure, and the galaxy had witnessed its first storm.